When is my son going to get his green card? Hi, I'm Jim Hacking, immigration lawyer practicing law throughout the United States out of our office here in St. Louis, Missouri. Just had a nice consult with a mom from Syria who filed for her son to come to the United States 4 years ago. So she is a U.S. citizen, naturalized, and she has applied for her son to get an immigrant visa, which would be followed by a green card in the United States. Now, we're going to put to the side the travel ban imposed by President Trump and just talk generally about parents sponsoring their children for immigrant visas. And so this woman had filed an I-130 petition for alien relative for her son. He was 23 at the time that he filed, and now he's 27. And the question is, when is he going to get here? And so I asked her some background questions about what she filed. She didn't have a copy of her I-130, which is, you always want to keep a copy of anything that you file with USCIS. You want to keep all of your receipt notices, and she had receipt notices for an I-90 green card extension and receipt notices for her N-400, but she did not have a copy of the receipt for the I-130. But that's okay, because we were able to talk generally, and I explained to her the concept of a priority date. A priority date is your line ticket. It is your place in line. So as I explained to this nice Syrian lady, that when you apply for an immigration benefit, you are assigned a priority date. That is the date it's receipted by USCIS, and that's your place in line. Now, unlike cases involving a U.S. citizen sponsoring their spouse or their parent or their child under the age of 21, when they sponsor a child over the age of 21, that child is considered to not be an immediate relative, and there's a cap on the number of those visas that are available every year. And because of the cap, these cases develop into a backlog, and there's a backlog of these cases right now. So when we took a look at her case, we realized that he's still about 3 or 4 years from being able to come because his visa priority date is not yet current. And so the way that you check that is if you Google Visa Bulletin, you can pull up the most recent one, find your category. In this case, it'd be unmarried son of a U.S. citizen. Look at the category and see the priority date based on your country of origin. Most countries all go into one category, and then there are separate categories for India, China, and Mexico, because there are a lot of those people already in the United States and they have their own separate backlog. So we talked about the Visa Bulletin, but we also talked about the proof that she submitted that this person was her son. And I cautioned her and I talked through with her what she submitted to prove the relationship. And it turns out that all she submitted was a birth certificate that was generated by the Syrian government in 2014. Now, this is going to pose a problem, and I'm 99% sure that when USCIS finally gets around to looking at her case, which is still a couple of years from now, that they will send her what's called a request for evidence, and they will ask her for more information, more documentation, more proof that this man is her son. They don't like later dated birth certificates. They don't like it when you submit documents that were generated right before you file the application. They want to see historical proof. They want to see the original birth certificate. And she said that's available, but that it's back home in Syria. So I told her to gather up all the evidence, all the documents of her relationship with her son, his school records, his medical records. If they have a family registry back in Syria, that they need to prove all that stuff and submit all that stuff, because what's going to happen when they receive that request for evidence, they're only going to have 30 days to submit this supplemental material. Remember, USCIS wants to deny the case. They don't want to approve the case. So even though they've been sitting on the case for 5 or 6 years by that point, they're not going to give her a large amount of time to gather this stuff. So it's much better, A, to submit it with the original application. If you haven't done that, then it's better to submit it when they ask for it. I wouldn't send it in now because I don't think it'll ever catch up to her file. Perhaps it will, but I think it might be better to wait for the request for evidence. The other thing that we talked about, given the fact that this case has been pending for a long time and will continue to pend for a long time, is that she needs to make sure she updates her address with USCIS. Now, she says she's at the same address she was when she filed the I-130, and I hope that's correct, because sometimes people get these cases denied because they simply don't respond to a request for evidence because it's sent to the wrong address. So that's how that whole process works. That's what we talked about in her case. She had some other children, but they're married and the delays for those cases are much longer, so she decided not to apply for them, but she really wants her kids here. So again, putting aside the travel ban, just generally when you apply for your adult children, it can be a really long wait. Obviously it's worth it once they get to come, but it's a frustrating time when you can't be together with your children. So if you have questions about sponsoring your child, or if you have an application that's been on file for a while and you're wondering what happened and you want to talk it through with a competent immigration lawyer, give us a call at 314-961-8200. You can email us at info@hackinglawpractice.com. We're on the web at www.hackinglawpractice.com, but the best place to find us is in our Facebook group, which is called Immigrant Home. And then of course we have our YouTube channel. If you have video ideas that you'd like us to shoot, just shoot us an email or comment below and we'll try to make a video per your liking. And make sure you subscribe to our channel so that when we update with new videos, you get the word. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.